Good morning, kids. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Good morning, kids, and I'm thankful that I have another opportunity to share a story with you. I hope you like my stories and tell your friends about it, and maybe even subscribe if you like my channel. Okay? Today's story is titled Young Charlie, that's me, meets a Jew man. Now, let me explain what this means. A Jew man was a man who came over from Europe during the 1920s and 30s. The Jews were persecuted and treated very poorly in Europe, and many of them came to the United States as immigrants. And when they came here, we also had a depression going on. We had millions of people out of work, just like these guys here. We had 4 million people roaming the country. These are called hobos. I talked to you about earlier in another video. But these guys would go on a train, jump on a train, and go somewhere to pick apples, oranges, whatever need picking, fruit or vegetables. But these thousands and thousands of Jews that came over couldn't find jobs, and many of them found out they could make a little bit of money by collecting scrap. So I'm going to show you a picture in a few minutes, but before that I want to tell you something. When I met my first Jew man, I liked him, even though my mother tried to scare me, because he had a sack on his shoulder, and she said, "If you don't behave, Chucky, I'm going to have the Jew man put you in a sack and take you away." But I knew he wouldn't do that because I saw his sack. It didn't have little boys or girls in it. It had other stuff. And if it had a little boy or girl, they'd have been kicking and yelling, screaming. So I knew it wasn't true. And I wasn't afraid of him. In fact, I liked him. I liked the Jew man that came down our street. Came down a couple times every summer for years. And now when these Jews came over, they had nothing. They were very, very poor. So they lived together in houses, many of them 3 or 4 or 5 families in one little house to save money. And they did whatever they could do to make a little bit of money. And so many of them some became hobos, but most of them didn't. They settled down into the area and they became business people. And I'm going to show you a picture now of a man who used to be called a Jew man. They also called him a rag picker because he picked up rags. He picked up bones, a bone picker. You'd say, why would you want bones? Well, in those days, there were a lot of people butchering, and they gave their dogs a big bone to chew on for extra energy and so forth. And these big beef bones were like big, almost as big as my head, some of them. And they would collect these bones and then sell them to the people that made soap. And they cook the bones and they make soap out of it. Anyway, this Jew man would walk down the street, and whoever he saw, he would say, "Rags, rubber," and he would say, "metal." He had broken English because they just were learning the language, but they would take bones too. But I never had any bones for them. My mother used all the bones around our house for soup. And I could have probably given the old bones, never thought about it. Anyway, these Jews in this sack. They would carry that sack, and they might have had 2 sacks. By the end of the day, he might go home after 8 or 10, 12 hours of walking the streets and yelling that out. Rags, rubber, metal. He might have 2 sacks. He would take them home, and then he would sort it out at home so that he could see what he had. And sometimes he had pretty good stuff. Well, the first time I met him, I heard him say rubber. I knew he had a rubber hose in the garage that I had picked up, brought home. It was split. My dad didn't want it, so I brought that out. And I remember he gave me some money for it. I don't know if it was 2 cents or a nickel or what. But for a penny, you could buy a box of candy. And for a nickel, you could fill your whole pocket full of candy in those days. This was around 6, 7 years old. Anyway, the thing I want to show you next is that after he did that for a while, he would he took anything you had of value. I mean, if you had silverware or old, any kind of metal, even old boots, rubber boots, anything you get money. And the rags, they used the rags to make paper. The best paper was made from rags. The more rag content, the more the paper cost. And so they collected anything they could. And now, after a while, after about a year or so doing this, my friend, he got a cart, something like this. That's not him, but that cart would hold 8 or 10 bags. And that way he could pull them instead of carrying over his shoulder. Took a burden off of him. But people would save the rags and stuff for him, so they'd know they're coming down again, they'd have it. But I also went around the neighborhood and I scrounged, I picked up anybody had rubber or metal or rags. I took it and put it in my dad's garage. When he came down then, I had it for him. But people often saved it for him because they knew the Jew man would be coming down the street. And collecting, they also called this rubbish, and some people call it trash. But they would see value in stuff that most people would just throw out. Okay? Now, after a while, about the 2nd or 3rd year, he made more money. He came down our street with a wagon like this. Now that wagon will hold a lot. It'll probably hold 1,000 pounds of stuff. And the horse pulled the weight for him, so it was pretty nice. He made progress then. I put down here, during the Second World War, 1941 to 1945, the scrap collectors and scrap dealer became rich because they sold all the stuff to the factories and the government to make stuff for the war. Okay? This is part 1, and part 2 will be coming shortly, so you check that next time, okay? Goodbye now. I'll see you. I hope you enjoyed the story about Charlie becomes a junk collector at an early age. Bye.